Everybody, and we are live. It is Wednesday. Hi there to Nicola. People already coming in from all over the world. We've got an amazing show for you today. We are going to be talking about revolutionizing mobility, how we can use the power of artificial intelligence and the power of ChatGPT to create a dynamic core flex policy. And actually, it's not just a core flex policy. You know, it can be any policy, but what we're going to be showing you is how you can use this new technology to actually make your lives a lot easier. And we're going to do a live demo of that, and we're going to explain exactly how we took a concept and we created it into a policy and saved, I don't know, dozens of hours that would otherwise be the case of creating a policy. So, and then we're going to show you a tech demo behind it as to how that policy can actually then be implemented in practice using the technology. So there's some pretty fancy stuff coming in. And well, you know how it works. Join the conversation. Please write in the comments box. I can see a lot of you there. I saw Tara there. So Kuram, Ashke is coming up. People coming in from all over the world, which is great. Next week, we're actually going to be taking some of the concepts we've been talking about, what we're going to be talking about today, which is ChatGPT and AI, and we're going to be talking to a company that is more involved in ChatGPT and AI than pretty much anybody else on the planet, because next week we are super excited that our special guest is going to be from Microsoft. We've got Juan Carlos Gonzalez from Microsoft, and we're going to talk about global mobility at Microsoft. And we're going to be unveiling some pretty cool stuff about how we are using the latest AI and ChatGPT technology for Microsoft itself and what it's doing with its own employees. And trust me, you will not want to miss it. It is amazing. So that's next week, Global Mobility at Microsoft. By the way, of course, if you want to get your codes, you know where you can get your codes from. CPE codes. If you want GMS or CRP codes, then they're up there, and they're courtesy of our good friends at Worldwide ERC. If you want codes from HRC or SHRM, then again, they're up here, and they've been provided courtesy of our good friends at Rocket Mortgage. I'll leave this up for a moment or two. Do either screenshot it or just take a photo of it or write it down with pen and paper, whatever you want, and make sure you've got the codes that you need. So lots of exciting stuff going on. We've also later on today got an amazing change maker story. And if you're not dabbing a tear at some point in this, I will be quite shocked. We got really quite a heartwarming and heartbreaking and heartwarming story to share with you. But meanwhile, let's go on and have a look at the breaking news. What's been going on in the wonderful world of global mobility over the last 7 days? Let's see the breaking news. So that's our breaking news. Many congratulations to everybody who's moved job. Many congratulations to everyone who's been promoted. And also actually a big shout out to our friends at FEM. I know the Dallas event is going on today and tomorrow. I've got loads of friends who are out there, so have a great time, everybody. And then, of course, there is the Emma's dinner. I think it's tomorrow night, May the 4th. So good luck to all the people who are up for Emma Awards. especially, of course, dare I say it, for Benivo, but good luck to everybody who's up for an Emma Award. We're now going to start talking about immigration. As ever, we've got Julia Onslow-Cole with us. So everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome to our virtual stage, Julia Onslow-Cole.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Julia, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Yes, very well.
Now, today, I know you're going to be talking about a really important subject, which is one maybe doesn't get as much attention as it needs until it needs, and then it gets the whole organization's attention, because you're going to be talking about crisis management. So tell us a bit about that.
Yes, so I was just going to give some background to the current terrible crisis in Sudan and just explain at a very high level what's going on. And then, I haven't got time, to look at this from the refugee humanitarian perspective. But, obviously that is something that is just so dreadful and such an important international issue. But I'm just going to be looking at it from the lens of global mobility in terms of policies. So in Sudan, at the moment, as everyone knows, there's an awful situation going on. So Sudan is situated in the northeast of Africa. It's just below Egypt, and it's just by Eritrea. And then on the northeast side, there's the Red Sea, and across the Red Sea is Saudi Arabia.
And it is a remarkably large country, I've been told.
It's the third largest country in Africa, a population of 45 million, and already a third of that population are dependent on humanitarian aid, which is, why this crisis is just so dreadful. And also it's mainly in the Sahara Desert. There's some oil and gold mines, but a large part of the population are doing sort of subsistence farming. And there is a real concern that this crisis will actually spill over to a regional crisis. Oh, so the whole situation is about two rival groups, the Sudanese army and a paramilitary group known as RSF, Rapid Support Forces. And really, it's a power struggle between those two. And in 2021, there was a coup. The coup ended a transitional government, which was put in place after the fall of a long-time dictator of 30 years, Omar al-Bashir. And the idea was this transitional government would move into civil rule. But since the coup, the Sudanese army has been in control with the coup leader as General Burham, and the RSF is led by General Hamati. And there is, as I say, a power struggle between the two, which is really a battle about controlling the assets, the economic assets. And it's not really a conflict about ideology. But as I say, there's a grave concern it'll go into the region. And we've all read in the papers, the desperate plight. And as I said, it's a really terrible humanitarian struggle. And it's something that we ought to do, Brian, another show about, just talking about the refugee crises. But what I wanted to do is quickly bring it back to global mobility for the purposes of today. And just as a tiny reminder, remind everyone about things that we need to be thinking about in crisis management. And I've actually done quite a few crisis management projects from the immigration perspective. And one of the things to remember is that when governments swoop in and take out citizens, they will only take out certain citizens. So, for example, the British government will only take out British passport holders or their immediate families and people with existing UK entry clearance. They've actually agreed to take out some nurses, but in general, those are the types of rules. So one thing that has happened is a lot of people had their passports were in different embassies for visas for going to different countries, so they couldn't get their passports out because the diplomatic embassies and posts were cleared first, so their passports were stuck, so they couldn't move. And secondly, many of them got caught out because their partners don't have entry clearance. So I think as a kind of lesson, it's generally relatively easy to get 2 passports. I happen to have 2 passports. You just have to show that for the UK that you travel a lot, and then you could put 1 passport in to get visas and keep 1 passport. So if that's possible, you're sending someone to a relatively unstable area, see if you can give them 2 passports. I think the other thing is to say, don't wait to the last minute to think about their dependents. And if you can put in place, entry clearance and get on with applications, you should do it. The second thing is, it's always, this is the lesson of a crisis, know who is where, not just them, their family, but have they got any visitors with them? And then ensure that you keep a track of their documents and have certified copies in your office or on your systems of their marriage certificate, birth certificates, all of those, because they're terribly useful. And then really make sure that you've got very well rehearsed plans for evacuation. We saw in Sudan, it was very difficult. It was very difficult to use the runway because it's quite an old runway, so there's so much traffic on it. It was actually very hard in the end to land planes. Then they're moving people to Port Sudan. But it's very important that when you move people to unstable countries, you have a plan, you know where you're going to go, you know how you're going to evacuate. And then in the evacuations I've done, often then when you bring people to another country, there's all sorts of questions in those poor people's minds who've been through terrible trauma, but sort of what's going to happen about schooling? Is the firm going to pay for housing, schooling? Will I be tax equalized while I'm staying in this destination? And so these really should be a matter of your policy on crisis management policy. And then, my final thing is just keep your policies refreshed, keep them updated, and keep doing kind of dummy runs of this situation. But as I say, it's a terrible humanitarian crisis, and we really ought to be talking about that aspect soon.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Julie. There's one point that I know people were asking about, and in the comments, and I know the answer, but I'll just check with you. People were saying, when you were talking about 2 passports, you mean you've got 2 UK passports, so 2 identical passports.
Yeah, even better, Richard, if you can get another citizenship. And that's a really actually great point you make, because for example, a lot of British citizens have have the ability to get Irish passports, but it's quite a process, and you need a lot of documents. So I know a lot of people who, could do but haven't. So I think, yes, try and make sure your population has as many passports as they're entitled to from different countries. But also in many countries like the UK, you're allowed to have 2 passports, and I have 2 UK passports, and that means you can put 1 passport in for a visa and another travel.
Okay, that's a really, really good tip. Okay, we're going to move on because we've got a very, very full agenda today. But I'm super delighted that our change maker for today is Tom Swap from Iron Mountain. We're just super honored to have him on the show. So everybody, please, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. So let's say a big, big thank you to Julia Onslow Cole, and a really big welcome onto the stage to Tom Swap from Iron Mountain, our change maker for the week. Tom, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. It's great.
Thanks, Brian.
To be here. Okay, now no pressure, but we've got over 200 people watching us live now. So we're streaming out there big time today. Now you're with Iron Mountain, which I think is a company that most people will know. So I'm not really going to get into talking about that. But what I do want to talk about is the fact that you are one of our change makers, and the charity that you support is called Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I know you've got a very, very personal involvement. So can you tell us a bit about Make-A-Wish Foundation, and then we'll get into your personal involvement with it?
Sure. Make-A-Wish Foundation is a great organization that really strives to provide an unforgettable experience, really, to children suffering from really debilitating diseases or conditions. And really just try to give them some hope and light in what can be an otherwise struggle or a really hard experience they're going through, cancer, whatever it is. In my son's case, it was muscular dystrophy. And so it's just giving them some of their childhood back and some hope and joy in their life in constant hospital and other visits. So it's a great organization, been around for quite a while, doing lots of good all over the world.
They're an amazing charity, and it makes me feel proud, actually, from my perspective with our Changemakers initiative, that that we are doing something that is really indirectly, through you, is making a difference in the arts world. So tell us what your son is Benjamin, isn't it? Your
correct,
so
Benjamin.
Tell us a bit about his early years and about how Make-A-Wish Foundation got involved.
Sure. So Benjamin is 20 now. When he was 18 months old, we used to call him and his younger brother the diaper boys, because that's all they wore, is just diapers running all over. And he looked like a bodybuilder. He had pecs, he had biceps, he had the six-pack, he had deltoids, and he could throw a spiral American football like nothing else. And we thought he was going to be quite a little athlete for us. But he had some balance issues and could just be standing watching TV or whatever and fall over. So in the process of getting those checked out, we went to see a neurologist who ran some tests, and come to find out he had muscular dystrophy, which is a genetic condition. In Benjamin's case, he has a duplication in his gene sequence instead of a lot of kids have a deletion. And muscular dystrophy, there are about over 80 different varieties of the disease. Benjamin's particular one affects young boys. And it is a muscle wasting disease that really affects their muscles' ability to regrow muscles and to function. And so Benjamin, as a part of that, we just kind of let him live his life and do things. He played soccer, and to the extent what he could, and eventually moved into, you'll see what I call the old people mobility scooters. He had one of those in elementary and middle school. He ended up going to a power wheelchair and wheelchairs as he goes on. He still is ambulatory, but through that process, we wondered if that would be something that he could do as a Make-A-Wish trip for him. And we kind of, a lot of kids do that fairly early in their years. We let it go a little while. We wanted it to be something that he could find memorable. So when he was, around 10, 11, 12, we really started talking to him more about it. And then when he was about 13, he decided, through some means, we're still not sure exactly how, he had read it somewhere, that Uluru down in Australia, the big rock, changes colors during the different times of day and the sunlight and other things that happen, and he wanted to see that.
And so we Salt Lake City at the time, were you? Or
say that again?
Where were you living at the time?
At that time, we were in the Bay Area in San Jose.
So you were in the Bay Area, and you wanted to take him to Uluru in the middle of Australia.
Yeah. And so we told him that was a really big wish, because that was a long ways away and pretty expensive. So we told him he ought to have a backup plan. And when you, I don't know if sign up for it is the right terminology, but when you contact Make-A-Wish, they have somebody come out and talk to you and kind of explain the situation, get your wish, and those types of things, and then they go back and figure out what they can do about it. And so they said they could do it, and so they did. They put us on a plane, flew us down to Sydney. This was in November. We got to see the Opera House. We got to see the Sydney Aquarium, the Sydney Zoo, and the gardens, and that. Spend a few days in Sydney, and then they flew us out to Uluru, which is really in the middle of Australia. And he got to take right when we got there, they put us on trikes and take us around the whole circling Uluru. And then we got to do a camel ride that took us out to a dinner where you'd overlook Uluru, and then have dinner. And probably for us, the amazing part of the trip, as he was gonna make me cry.
So Tom, it's just an amazing story, and I can see how emotional it is for you. But Tom, I think it'll make me cry too, actually. But I mean, it's just, we'll get through this. But Tom, it is an amazing charity. As Richard said, what can I say, Tom? What an amazing dad! What an amazing son! Thank you for sharing this, Tom. It's been an absolute pleasure, if that's the right word, honor having you on the show today. And I'm just so pleased that our Changemakers initiative is actually really helping out. And there we've got him on the trike. And yeah, Tom, it's just been a pleasure having you on the show. Everybody, we're going to say goodbye to Tom now. So let's just bring Tom back on screen there. We're going to say goodbye. But everybody, please, like you've never done before, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's say a really big thank you to Tom Swap for being on our show. And we're now going to bring on Tally, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the Top 100 Diversity Initiative. So thank you once again, Tom, for sharing.
Thanks,
and
Brian.
Bring on Tally. We love him. We love you, Tom. Oh, how do you
Hello, Brian. Wow, what an amazing story.
Amazing guy. Amazing story.
We have to be quick because you have such a great show waiting. So just to tell everyone that we've sent our first notifications to all nominees. That doesn't mean that you're going to be on the final list, but at least it means that some of your peers thought you're great diversity champions. And so look in your mailboxes or spam. I'm hoping it's not getting into spam. And so if you do want to know if you made it to the final list, do join us on May 17 for the big reveal show. And that's going to be on May 17. Last thing I wanted to mention is that, is that we just released a game-changing project mobility technology solution. It's the first ever solution to manage projects, mobility projects, and it's specifically designed for companies working on projects such as IT outsource companies, energy companies, oil and gas. And we're going to have a webinar on May 11th, so do join us. It's corporate only, but it's going to be really, really good and very interesting. So I encourage everyone to join.
This is cool. This is the first tech solution for people who've basically got people working on client contracts on projects. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm gonna put the links in the comments, and that's it for today.
Okay, so Tally, thank you so much for that section. We're now going to be talking about ChatGPT and how we've actually used it to design in this case, a core flex policy and the technology behind it, but also showing you how you yourselves can use that sort of technology for anything that you want to do with your work. So everybody, we're going to welcome to the stage Russ and Beth as we talk about that. So please put your hands together to thank Tally for all her hard work and to welcome Russ and Beth to the stage as we talk about revolutionizing mobility. Hey, Beth. Hey, Russ. How are you both doing?
Great.
Very well, thank you. Hi,
So
Brian.
nice to see you.
Good. Okay, so this is quite a fascinating show, and it'll be interesting to talk about the genesis of it as well, because here we've got a situation where there was the idea to create a core flex template, and then we used technology to create it, and the template later on we're going to put up there. Anybody who wants it can download it. It's free of charge. It'll be on our website. But also there might be other stuff that you want to do doing this. And so we've had so many people in the last few weeks talking about ChatGPT and saying, well, actually they've thought about it. They haven't really used it. They're not sure about it. So we thought, well, why not? Let's actually show people live what it is and how it can be used. So Russ, the story starts with you. So tell us a bit about the story.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here, Brian, to share a bit about the Benivo experience thus far, leveraging these generative AI or artificial intelligence platforms, namely ChatGPT, to generate policy content. And as always, excited to be here with Beth. I know she's going to be wonderful in demoing how some of this intersects with our platform and our technology. But the genesis of this project specifically goes back to an effort to develop policy templates for client advisory here at Benivo to work with our clients in developing and optimizing policies. And then here comes ChatGPT. You know, you think back 3 or 4 months ago, it wasn't even on our radar. And now we're using it to generate these types of templates. And, you know, there's a lot of debate certainly about, you know, will these technologies replace us? And, you know, that debate will be ongoing, and I'm sure we'll intersect it more on the show. But I would really say that our efforts to develop these templates are Benivo's embrace of this technology, really recognizing it as an opportunity to democratize knowledge, to put it out into the market. And really, in my experience using it, what it's really the eureka moment that I've had is that it's really an opportunity to highlight our expertise in new and different ways. So our value proposition is evolving, certainly in light of these technologies, but I'm so excited to share a bit about how we got to developing the CoreFlex International Transfer Policy Template that we're making live on our website today, available for download, and I know Tally will share that link. So excited to offer that to you.
Okay, so tell us a bit then. Is there stuff you want to share now, or are you going to move?
Yeah, if you want, Brian, if you want to share my screen,
I'm not seeing it here. If you can share. I'm not seeing your screen to share, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, let me come back out and I'll grab it. I think I can do it. This one.
Okay, so whilst he's doing that, I mean, maybe just Beth, whilst Russ is just sharing his screen, Beth, just tell us a bit about how this went from policy from sample into from survey into policy.
Yeah, so the exciting thing about this policy, and I know that we already released an LTA policy a few weeks ago, but the exciting thing about this core flex policy is that we also did a survey, a benchmarking survey, and Tally has very kindly just put the link into the comments. So you can download that, have a look what the survey said, and have a look at all of the responses that were given. And then in conjunction with that survey, Russ has used ChatGPT, which is going to show us today, to develop
a here now.
policy.
Let me just Okay, so here is ChatGPT. So we've got that now. So this is just, tell us a bit about it, Russ. I see this is ChatGPT Plus. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, for those in our audience who maybe haven't jumped into ChatGPT yet, I want to just spend a moment orienting you to the functions of the platform. If you are a new user, you're going to default to an early version called GPT 3.5. But if you discover that you are kind of a power user, you're using it regularly, you may really want to invest in purchasing a Plus subscription. It does come at a cost, a monthly cost of $20 US is the current subscription rate. I found it well worth it for how I'm using the application. It's just a great way to ensure that you have consistent access to the platform. And it also gives you access to a new generation of the platform called ChatGPT 4. I would call attention to this disclaimer that ChatGPT includes, which basically says that the application may produce inaccurate information about people, places, or facts. And I do think that that's really important to pause on for just a second and remind our audience today that as you use ChatGPT, you do always need to keep that kind of eye toward your own sense of what is accurate or factual, and make sure that you filter it through.
You used a great analysis when we were talking earlier. You said it's like having a personal assistant.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a great metaphor.
You can do stuff, but you've got to check it.
Absolutely. I mean, I love that metaphor because that's been my experience. You're really having a conversation with a personal assistant. And sometimes the personal assistant can be a bit imperfect right out of the gate. The first response you may get from your prompts may be a bit imperfect, but you can ask the personal assistant if you want to optimize those results and put in subsequent prompts to ask it to refine its messages back to you. And that's really the method that I use to generate the content for our policy templates. Just a comparison really quick of the 3.5 version versus the 4-point version. According to ChatGPT, the 4-point version gives you a bit more reasoning and conciseness, but it's a slower speed. I have not found that to be the case. Since I went on to the Plus subscription plan, I found it to be just as zippy and almost instantaneous in responding as it always was. It is also worth noting that the GPT-4 application will include a throttle at 25 messages every 3 hours. I have also not experienced being slowed down in any way because of that limitation. The input to ChatGPT is very simple, very almost like a Google experience in the sense that there's no ads, there's no real miscellaneous kind of information. It's a very simple user interface where you're typing in prompts and asking for ChatGPT to give you responses back. And going back all the way to February, which in AI terms is like ancient history, but when I first started using ChatGPT, being the good policy consultant that I am, my first inclination was, well, I'm going to ask it to write a policy and just see what it gives me. So my initial prompt into ChatGPT is exactly what I'm sharing here, which was to write an international assignment policy that offers common practice employee relocation benefits and ongoing assignment compensation within a core flex structure. And so what I got back was a very concise, but surprisingly very thorough and accurate representation of an international assignment policy structured in a core flex way. It gives you the scope of the policy, eligibility criteria, a summary of relocation benefits. It goes into ongoing assignment compensation, and it talks about the core flex structure. This was the immediate response I got to this prompt. I took this back into the Benivo Slack channel, shared it with my colleagues, and there was a lot of debate and ideas and eureka moments based on sharing this. And really, this is the genesis of the initiative that we've undertaken to develop the templates that we're putting out into the market.
So what this did, and that's, I suppose, one of the secrets of ChatGPT is the conversation continues. So it starts off, it generates something, and then having generated it, you can then say, but refine it for this or that, and it develops on a bit further. And that's where, if you like, the human expertise and the expert expertise comes in, where you sort of refine it and you create the policy. So how long do you think it took you to create a policy in terms of hours compared to how long it would have taken you if you'd been working, directly in front of a blank Word document?
It was astounding how much efficiency I gained in using this technology, Brian. I would say that, I started with a long-term international assignment policy because it tends to be the most comprehensive, and I wanted to start with something that could be scalable and iterative to other policy types. I would say that exercise probably took 4 to 5 hours in total, spread out over a few days of going in and entering prompts on specific provisions, refining those prompts, refining that content. But had I started to just draft from scratch on a blank piece of paper, an international assignment policy, it would have taken a tremendous amount of time, days and days of effort, and not to mention days and days of research into, the emerging and common practices that we see around those policy types. So, I would say I gained at least a 70% efficiency in using this tool for generating the policy. So exciting.
Okay, and we'll come on, I think, to talk about some of the tech as well that goes with it. But one of the points that I would make here is that what you were using was ChatGPT, which is the open tool that anybody can use. And there's the 2 versions, the free version, subscribed version, but anybody can use those. There's a couple of warnings about that. One is, like as we've already said, is watch it for accuracy, because you need to check it. But the other is stuff that you put up in there is itself then going on to web. When we're doing stuff internally with our clients at Benivo, we're using our own version of GPT, which actually works just off our own data sources. So it keeps it confidential within the organization. Yes. And that is something that we're going to be talking about much more next week when we have Juan Carlos Gonzalez from Microsoft on the show. So that link is available, by the way. So if you do want to download and see that template, it is available now on the website, and you can see it. And Tally has, I think, put up a link there. So Beth, I'm going to move the conversation on to you now. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about taking those concepts and actually the tech that you can use to support Core Flex and the Benivo technology.
Yeah, well, exactly. So what Russ was working on was using ChatGPT to draft out the skeleton of a policy. But then obviously he used the Core Flex benchmarking report and also his own expertise, and we know what our clients are doing, to translate that into a policy that is a best-in-class tech-enabled Core Flex. And so what I wanted to share today is how, if you download the policy or if you come and talk to Benivo, how could that policy look in a tech-enabled environment? Because there's no point in having great policy if you then can't deliver it in a way that's also easy and streamlined and great experience for both you and the employees. So happy for you to share my screen if you like, but we wanted to start really by talking about those core elements. So the core elements, obviously.
So here's your screen that we're sharing, Beth.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing is Stark Industries, which I know is a demo platform, and
exactly
that's Core Flex. So I can see at the top there it says the number of points, I think. But tell us all a bit about this Core Flex program and how it works.
Yeah, so Core Flex means different things to different people. In Benivo, we believe that you should be able to flex at the employee level as well as at the corporate level. So at Benivo, as a corporate, you can decide what's included, but also as an employee, you then get to choose your benefits. So what I'm showing now, what I want to start talking about, are your core benefits. So core benefits are things that you want to deliver to your employees as standard, and that they get automatically initiated. But the employees still want to know, what is the status of those benefits? Just because they're being provided as core, they still need to know what's going on. So at Benivo, through the technology, you're able to track the status of those of those benefits. Where is it? Manage expectations. Where is the process at now? What's coming up next? And how many days is that meant to take? Who's the action with? Similarly, we bring really easy to use technology. Anyone who's ever received an email from me will know that I include a link to my calendar so that people can see when I'm available. Make it really easy to schedule time with me. And you can do the same through the platform as well. So if you see here that it says, please provide details, in this case, automatically enabling you to provide a time and schedule a time to meet with your relocation consultant, who could be an internal resource or an external resource, but just making things easy. So what we're showing here is all of these potential core benefits. And alongside every single one, you'll see the option that you can find out more, you can track it, you can even leave a review. So at every point through the technology, providing information, but also giving the opportunity for people to get that information, the mobility team to receive information about the experience that they're delivering.
So this is information taken. So you've got the policy, which we've designed in our hypothetical world here with ChatGPT, and this is now translated it into technology. There's one point I just want to take, actually. I just want to sort of go back a moment. Point that Mickey was making. You do need a subject matter expert on this. And I think I just want to stress that really, really strongly, is that you can use ChatGPT to create the policy, but you also need to have expert looking at it to actually then do it. So as Russ was saying earlier, I think he said it probably saves 70% of his time to create it. That's the important thing. It doesn't save 100% of your time.
No, absolutely not.
I want to just address that, is that what it's doing is it's allowing you then to take the concepts, put them into document, and then you have to go through and just do the sense check on that. Sorry to distract on that, but I was seeing a comment coming up on the LinkedIn channel. I just wanted to address that head on. That this is not taking away the role of the expert. What it is doing is giving the expert superpowers, as we put it, to create something much quicker and more efficiently than they could ever do before. Anyway,
it just makes you the editor rather than the creator, and that not having to start with a blank piece of paper and being able to have something in a structure that you can then tweak and amend and change and ask it to maybe change the language. I know that one of the things that Russ worked on was making sure that the language was concise and modern, to give it a nice modern feel. And we'd love your feedback. Actually, I've got on my screen as well what you can get to download the policy. So please, everyone, do go and click on the link and download the policy. And we'd love to get your feedback on what you think as well. It's
really an opportunity, I would say, too, for mobility program managers to really use the tool to focus on how do you make those nuanced language changes that really match the content to your corporate culture, to your corporate strategy. You know best kind of how to convey information to your stakeholders. And it's a wonderful opportunity to focus on that instead of focusing on that blank piece of paper, as Beth said. So,
and
this template is a template. I mean, every company is different. So you're going to take the template, look at it. Some of it is going to work for you, some isn't going to be working for you. It's basically, if you like, it's common practice rather than best practice. It's what people are actually doing is what it's based on. But hopefully, we do encourage people to download it, and hopefully it will help you. And then if you want to use technology behind it, and I want to get back to the technology, then this is the technology that you can use. Anyway, Beth, let's just go back to the technology.
So we went core things. So not everything can be provided as a service. And actually, one of the things that we're really keen on at Benivo is being able to deliver your employees some funds as well. So I've got here as an example, delivering funds for my flights. So it's normally a much nicer experience for employees.
I'm coming again here because I want the audience to really concentrate on this, because I think this is one of the most cool bits of technology I think I've ever seen. This is how you can pay expenses within minutes rather than weeks, and it's just watch this, guys. It's super cool.
Exactly. So I've uploaded, and so I took a screenshot from my phone. Actually, I uploaded this to the system. So this is a flight I took last week, and just put it into the system. It's read the receipt for me, and I can now get this paid back for tax reporting purposes. It's great because I can indicate whether my partner was there or my dependents. So you've got automatic reporting for tax benefit purposes. It is a game changer. But we also want to make sure that you remain in control. So as far as Core Flex goes, normally there'll be a budget cap or some kind of policy around what is applicable for your flights. So what I'm showing here is, actually I'm going to make this ridiculously huge, so it definitely goes over my cap, is that the amount that I have requested is more than my policy is letting me have. So immediately within my Core Flex and expense management, I'm educating the employee about what their policy is. There's also some approval guidelines that I can show for the employee to be able to reference. And it's just fantastic that not only can they upload their expenses, and this doesn't stop me submitting, just because I've asked for more than my budget, I can submit it and get paid within seconds, but I'm only going to get paid up to the budget maximum. That's the amount, and it has to be supported by documentation. And obviously there's checks and balances and everything in the background. So it is such a simple way of integrating a Core Flex, as well as the ability to deliver.
And Beth, I want to say too that what I love about this is how it becomes a record for program managers of cases where employees have submitted items that are in excess of policy. So over time, it's a great gauge for program managers to be able to revisit the parameters of policy and decide, do we need to make optimizations to accommodate if there's a pattern of people constantly asking for more than they're entitled to?
Precisely. And as you know, at Benivo, we deliver that in the management platform as well. So one of the things that I was going to show, or I can show, is our management reporting. So I know we're going to talk about Flex in a second, but let's just go on to some management reporting, because that's equally awesome.
Okay, so tell me when you want to share your, I know you're loading up a management platform, so tell me when you want to
share. You can share the screen now. It is just loading up. But actually, Russ, did you want to share my screen now? It's always nice to speak to some reports. So on the management platform,
there we go.
As you know, all of these are included as standard within the Benivo platform. There is some really cool data. So not just your standard things about what's been approved and how many points, but we go that step further and actually deliver you insights. So which are the most popular and least popular benefits? What are the top benefits that are being asked for, which are requested, which are used, which are the ones by family status? And obviously you've got loads of filters that you can play around with and really get meaningful data. So it's not just the operational delivery that we're doing through the tech. It's, as Russ was indicating, it's giving you insights. It's helping you to see that data. And obviously at Benivo, we also have our client advisory team who can help you interpret that data and your analytics as well.
That's good, because Core Flex is a bit of an iterative process, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That just because you have benefits one year doesn't mean you want to have the same benefits in the Flex side, in later years. It may be it changes, maybe other things you want to do. It may be you want to move from one provider of services to another provider of the same services. And all that is giving you those sorts of effectively ratings and feedback as to what is working, what is popular.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And what I've done now is just navigate back to Flex so we can talk about, exactly how we iterate, Russ.
Yeah, and the Flex components of our template were directly derived from the findings of our recent Core Flex survey. Those findings yielded, some confirmations of what we knew to be common practice with the delineation of certain mobility provisions as Flex. But there were some surprises as well. We found that most companies today are categorizing, for instance, household goods shipment as a Flex component. And that has not always historically been the case. So we wanted to make sure that our template reflected those common practices and also what we know to be emerging best practices. So we did take some liberty to adjust some of those findings and our template to align. We did a couple of things. One, we made sure that employees in the Flex category had the option to buy into enhanced levels of core provisions. So perhaps an extra day of destination services support, an extra few days of temporary accommodations. We also added in some lifestyle benefits that we have found as an emerging trend companies are beginning to adopt. And our technology does a wonderful job of supporting things that really drive equitability in the program and empowerment of the employee to avail themselves of services that are non-traditional, but really can make a key difference in that employee experience.
Yeah, I love that. And obviously one of the things that Benivo technology brings to a Core Flex is answering that age-old question, what did everyone else do? Right. So an example of that is that whole Amazon style experiences. We tell people not just in this case, 10% of people chose pet travel, but what did they think of it? So what did everyone else do? And what did they think of it? And that helps to guide the process. Now, we are not removing humans from the process. At this stage, once someone has selected their points and spent them or spent some of them, they then do get the option, you as a company control what happens next. Do you just immediately authorize those policy benefits? Do you, and obviously we're telling the employee what happens next, so this would be customized. Do you have them speak to someone, whether that's an internal team member or an external resource? Who is going to make sure that once the employee's been informed, once they've had the technology to help understand what they can get for their budget, manage their expectations, who's then going to help them confirm that that is the right thing for them? And we've had so many, Russ can speak ad nauseum and give you examples of how our different clients have done this, because everybody does it differently. And that's the joy of technology, that everybody can do it differently, but it can all be enabled and streamlined through the tech.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And our template really, as a template, stops short of subscribing, for instance, a point-based approach to the Flex or a currency approach to the Flex. It doesn't attempt to assign specific values to the Flex provisions. Those are the intricacies of optimizing a core Flex approach to really suit your specific program needs. And that's why client advisory is here to work with our clients to optimize the template or existing policies to those purposes. But you can certainly play a role as well to bring your knowledge and expertise to that process. So it really is a conversation between your experts, your suppliers, and your program goals all come together to optimize a program for you.
And what about cost, Beth? Can you tell us a little bit about the cost of managing a program and how you can use technology to support that?
Yeah, so one of the biggest pushbacks that I hear about Core Flex is, well, firstly, the technology. So, how do they administer it? And we've answered that. The next pushback I often hear, and depends on the client, but often is, well, how much is this going to cost? How do I know, if I'm giving someone all of these options, how much this policy is going to cost the business? And that is a big question. And actually, previously, people didn't have, or there was a challenge to supporting this, because running a cost estimate is really expensive. It can be slow. It's not necessarily accurate. And so with Benivo, obviously offering unlimited cost estimates, we've actually helped to resolve that issue as well. So one of the approaches that a more conservative company could take is to do a cost estimate based on the most expensive things that employee can choose. And obviously that's going to change depending on family size and home and host location. So you have to do a cost estimate for that one individual. You can do it in seconds through the Benivo platform. Then once an employee has actually selected their benefits, you can rerun it. And that gives you the power to do estimate to actuals, even for a core flex benefit policy. So that has just been a huge game changer. You're able to get sign off on the costs and still track actual costs all through the technology.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think not being cost constrained and being able to take those templates and use them that way, Beth, is really great for our program managers to really be able to develop that intuitive sense of how close are actuals tracking to budget over time? How do we need to optimize benefits? How do we communicate back out to our stakeholders on an accrual basis throughout the life cycle of any particular move? And I think that's wonderful.
And I've got some extra. Oh, sorry.
I can say, Beth, I know you wanted to share a screen, didn't you? In terms of
do. I'm desperate to share I've just got one last. Obviously, we've got loads of reports and exciting dashboards here at Benivo, but one of the ones that I'm really excited about, surprise, surprise, is an recent AI dashboard that we have released. And the thing that's really exciting about this, especially in relation to Core Flex, is that we're using AI technology to proactively tell us when there might be a problem. So there's not actually a problem yet. Nothing's gone wrong, but the technology is saying, well, we've got low Core Flex usage. If you have a look at this one on the right here, they've got 15 people who haven't used their Core Flex points, and it's less than 30 days before their start date. So now that could be an indication that they're not engaging, that they haven't, that they're not making good choices. They might run out of time, and they therefore need some handhold support. They maybe need to be reached out to. And this dashboard tells us about those people. And I think that is just extraordinary that we're able to use technology to help us give the appropriate help to those that need it, and those that are booking things themselves and are quite happy going with the technology and using the insights, who maybe don't need that extra call and it's just a nuisance to them because they're getting on with everything. Don't bother them. Just let those who need it get the support. And yeah, this for me, this really excites me. This is obviously just a sample of the things that we can do, but I think it's fantastic.
Okay, so we're getting towards the end of the show. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes left, and I'll be bringing on Julia and Tom and Tally in a moment. But just, I suppose, a final thought, maybe like a 60-second version. Russ, where do you see this ChatGPT taking us going forward? What's the next step now?
I think if we lean into it, Brian, as I mentioned earlier, and really embrace it as an opportunity to democratize knowledge, within our industry, and rethink our value proposition as experts in our industry. I think that's the best way to go. We can debate the fears that we all have about this kind of technology and what it will mean to our roles and our jobs, and that debate will continue. But the more I've used it, the more confident I am in saying that we have still a role to play in working with this technology and blending it with our own expertise. For our program managers, bring your knowledge of corporate culture, corporate strategy to play in interacting with this technology. And I think that you'll find it a very, very extremely valuable tool. A personal assistant. You've gained, potentially for $20 a month subscription, a personal assistant, and it's very powerful.
Yeah.
And here's
if anyone, I love that. Thanks, Richard.
Yeah, I was just going to pull up a comment from Mickey Mayer. He said, I just asked ChatGPT to create a CoreFlex international transfer policy template, thinking it might stump it, but it didn't. I do wish the program would attribute sources, however generic the response may be. Yeah, I mean, that's I suppose the issue, Mickey, is you do have to be careful with it, but it is phenomenal and used as your personal assistant, as Russ put it so nicely. I mean, it is so powerful. But do tune in next week, because next week we're going to take things to a whole nother level. So what we've been showing you today is what you can do using, if you like, generic ChatGPT that is out there. What we're going to be showing you next week is what you can do with a bespoke GPT. It's not called ChatGPT, a bespoke GPT. And in particular, we are super honored that we've got Juan Carlos Gonzalez, who heads up mobility at Microsoft, who couldn't be better placed to talk about AI and OpenAI and ChatGPT and all that sort of stuff. So he's going to be on the show together with Benivo's very own Nitsan Udan. Anyway, we're pretty much out of time. What I do want to do is I want to bring Julia back onto the show. I want to bring Tom back onto the show, and of course our producer Tally onto the show. So thank you, everybody. And
I love Tara's comment, like Google or other search engines search on steroids. Exactly.
Yeah, I think there is a slight difference there, Tara. It is exactly like Google on steroids, but the difference is always remember that GPT is what they call a large language model. It's not a search engine, so sometimes it will spit out gibberish. It will, the technical term is hallucinate. So you do have to watch it, and you've got to oversee it with expert eyes. Richard said, what? There's more to GPT. I'm so scared I don't sleep at night after the show. Well, Richard, next week will be either a dream or a nightmare, depending on how you want to look at it. We'll take things to a whole new level, I promise you. So we've got a great show lined up next week. We're back the same time next week. So all that really remains is for me to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you to Russ. Thank you to Beth. As ever, thank you to Julia. As ever, thank you to Tally for putting the show together. And a really, really, really special thank you to Tom for sharing the story. And hopefully we've promoted Make-A-Wish Foundation a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody, and we will see you all next week. Goodbye.
Thanks, Brian.